My wife has been secretly sending money to a cousin for years. I just found out this cousin doesn't exist. I, 32M, never thought I'd be posting here, but the events of the past 2 weeks have completely shattered my understanding of my marriage, and I desperately need outside perspective to make sense of everything. My wife and I have been married for 7 years, together for 9. We've built what I always thought was a rock-solid relationship based on trust, mutual respect, and open communication. We both work in tech, make good money, and have always maintained a system of separate accounts while sharing expenses equally. We've always been transparent about our finances, or at least that's what I believed until recently. It all started 3 weeks ago during our tax preparation. I was organizing our documents in our shared cloud storage when I stumbled upon a folder I hadn't noticed before. Inside were meticulously organized monthly transaction records showing regular payments of $500 to someone labeled as Cousin T. The payments stretched back almost 4 years, totaling around $24,000. Initially, I didn't think much of it. My wife comes from a large, close-knit family, and she's always been generous with relatives. She regularly helps her younger sister with student loan payments and sent money to her parents during COVID when their small business struggled. But something about these particular transactions felt off. The payments were exactly $500, sent on the same day each month, like clockwork. In 7 years of marriage, attending countless family gatherings, holidays, and reunions, I'd never heard mention of a Cousin T. That evening, I casually brought up the topic over dinner. "Hey, I was organizing our tax stuff and noticed you've been helping out one of your cousins. Everything okay with them?" The way she reacted set off immediate alarm bells. She tensed up, her fork freezing halfway to her mouth, before quickly composing herself and giving a vague answer about helping family through tough times. When I tried to ask more specific questions, she got defensive and changed the subject. My wife has never been particularly guarded about family matters before. The next day, while she was at work, I did something I'm not proud of. We've always shared passwords for emergencies, and I used hers to check her email. I found years of correspondence with Cousin T, but something was off. The responses came from different email addresses each time, each one slightly different, but following a similar pattern. The writing style was strangely formal, reading more like business correspondence than family communication. The emails from my wife were always apologetic, making excuses about late payments or requesting more time. Things got worse when I discovered a folder of deleted emails in her trash. These weren't the polite, formal exchanges I'd seen before. They were threatening messages demanding money, with intimate details about our personal life that no distant cousin should know. The most recent one mentioned our weekend plans to visit a specific restaurant, plans we'd only discussed in private the day before. I spent the next week in a daze, watching my wife more closely than ever before. I noticed things I'd overlooked, how she always took phone calls in another room, her slight tension whenever I mentioned family gatherings, the way she'd changed her phone's notification settings to hide message previews. She'd been living a double life right under my nose, and I hadn't noticed for 4 years. Last Friday, I finally confronted her. I waited until after dinner, when we were both relaxed on the couch. "We need to talk about Cousin T," I said, and watched as all color drained from her face. She tried to stick to her story at first, but when I mentioned the deleted emails, she broke down completely. The truth came pouring out between sobs. For years ago, at her previous job, she'd made a serious mistake in the company's financial system. She was working on implementing a new trading algorithm, and a coding error she made went unnoticed for months, resulting in significant losses for the company. When the issue was discovered, she panicked and covered her tracks. The company never traced it back to her, but someone else had noticed, a former co-worker who'd since left the company. This person approached her with evidence of her mistake, threatening to expose her to both her old and new employers if she didn't pay them off. She was terrified of losing her current job and facing potential legal consequences, so she agreed to the payments. The cousin's story was her way of hiding the transactions in plain sight. "I wanted to tell you so many times," she cried, "but I was scared." The more time passed, the harder it became. I thought I was protecting our future, but I've ruined everything. The next few days were a blur of revelations and discussions. We met with a lawyer who specialized in extortion cases. He was optimistic about our chances, especially given the extensive email evidence we had. The statute of limitations had passed for the original coding error, which provided some relief. But learning this only made me more frustrated. She could have come clean years ago without serious consequences. We've spent hours talking through everything. She's given me access to all her accounts, emails, and phone records. The transparency is almost overwhelming now, but it feels like too little, too late. Every night, we go through more details, and each revelation feels like a fresh wound. The financial impact is significant but manageable. We can recover from $24,000 in losses. What's harder to recover is my trust in her judgment. This wasn't a one-time mistake or a brief lapse in judgment. This was 4 years of conscious deception. Every time she mentioned helping her cousin, every fake story about their circumstances, every deflected question, it was all carefully constructed to maintain the lie. The situation has forced us to confront uncomfortable truths about our relationship. How well do we really know each other? What else might we be keeping from each other? She's been the perfect partner in every other way, supportive, loving, ambitious. We've built a beautiful life together, traveled the world, supported each other's careers, and planned for our future. But now I question every memory, wondering what other worries or secrets she was carrying during our happiest moments. We've started couples therapy, and our therapist is helping us work through the complex emotions on both sides. My wife is clearly remorseful and is doing everything right to rebuild trust. She's been completely transparent, answered every question honestly, no matter how painful, and is fully cooperating with our lawyer to build a case against the blackmailer. The lawyer believes we have a strong case. The emails show a clear pattern of extortion, and the blackmailer made several mistakes that make them easier to trace. They used personal email services that can be subpoenaed, mentioned specific details that prove they were stalking us, and got greedy with their demands, which helps establish the pattern of extortion. But legal victory won't fix our relationship. I find myself watching her constantly, analyzing her expressions and tone for signs of deception. When her phone buzzes, my heart rate spikes. When she says she's working late, I fight the urge to check her location. I hate feeling this way. It's exhausting and unfair to both of us. The hardest part is that I understand her initial fear. I can see how a moment of panic led to a decision that spiraled out of control. Each payment probably felt like buying more time, hoping the situation would somehow resolve itself. But understanding doesn't make it hurt less. 4 years is a long time to maintain a lie to someone you share your life with. The coming months will be challenging. We have to work with the police and lawyers to build the case against the blackmailer. We need to continue therapy to rebuild trust. My wife has to process her guilt over both the original mistake and years of deception. I have to decide if I can truly move past this. I'm not considering divorce. Our relationship is worth fighting for. But I know things will never be quite the same. The innocence and implicit trust we had is gone. We're having to rebuild our relationship with a new understanding of each other's capabilities for both mistakes and deception. Am I overreacting to all this? Sometimes I feel like I should be more angry. Other times I wonder if I'm not being understanding enough. How do you rebuild trust after discovering years of deception, even if the intentions behind it were misguided? Has anyone else dealt with something similar? Edit. Thank you all for the responses and support. To address some common questions. Yes, we have preserved all evidence, including emails and transaction records. The lawyer has advised us to maintain copies of everything. My wife's current employer is different from where the original mistake occurred, and the blackmailer never worked directly with her. Edit 2. Several people asked about the original coding error. Without getting too technical, it involved an automated trading system that had a logic flaw in how it handled certain types of transactions. The error caused the system to execute trades that appeared profitable but actually resulted in losses. The company eventually discovered and fixed the issue, but never identified my wife as the source. The blackmailer had access to the code repositories and early error reports that pointed to her involvement. TLDR, discovered my wife has been secretly paying a blackmailer $500 monthly for 4 years, hiding it as payments to a non-existent cousin. The blackmail stems from a coding error at her old job that caused significant losses. Now struggling with trust issues despite understanding her reasons. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with friends or family who might enjoy it too. Your support means a lot. And if you have any thoughts, questions, or story ideas, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next story.